Hold on. It has taken me a long time to get here. Well, I had support from my SLPs, family, teachers. I had very little support overall about my stutter. I was mocked, bullied, laughed at. When kids did it, I was angry, but never did or said anything about it. In hindsight, I gave them the benefit of the doubt though, because they were kids, and let's be honest, I've said and done plenty of things I shouldn't have as a kid. Now, when it was adults, on the other hand, mocking me or laughing at me, that's when I had more of an issue. But thankfully, that didn't happen very often. But you know what? When I was mocked, being mocked, laughed at, treated unfairly as an adult, I definitely took exception. In fact, about 6 years ago, I went to see my doctor. I had chronic headaches for a couple of weeks, and I've never been prone to get headaches, so it was worrisome for me. And I wasn't a big fan of my doctor to begin with, but give it the benefit of the doubt because, because of my headaches, I definitely wanted to see someone to get it addressed. So, so when she asked me what my symptoms were, I was stuck. I couldn't get any sound out, much less a word. And very rudely, and loudly said, okay, you know what? I'm going to ask you questions and you're going to say yes or no. And that was kind of my cue to just get up and say, screw this. I don't care how long it takes, I'm finding a new doctor. And the year before that, I was unemployed. So I was at an employment agency. An employment agency, by the way, catered to people with disabilities. And one of the agents had a visible disability. So I thought, well, I stutter. They'll definitely understand. No question about it. So I sat down. There were 3 employers there, and I started by giving them a forewarning about my stutter. So basically I said, hey, just so you guys know, I stutter, and I'm okay with it. Something along the lines of, it doesn't impede my intelligence or anything like that. So the first question that they asked me is, just basically tell us a little about yourself. So I did, and I struggled a bit. And then when I was done, I was confused because they had amused looks on their faces, and they're like, "Are you okay there?" And I pretty much repeated, "Yes, I stutter. I literally just told you that." And it was an inauspicious start and just did not go well because one of them asked me a question, another question, and I tried to say it, and as I was trying to say it, she proceeded to ask me another question. So again, with my time with my doctor, I was like, hey, you know what? Screw this. I'm going. for years, I've, like, so to speak, I've had a very negative, defeatist attitude about my stuttering. I've always seen it, well, early on, as a curse, as a burden. I don't think I've used those specific terms, but that's how I felt. And honestly, I'm ashamed to admit this, but like for a longer amount of time, I'd see any speaking situation and just say, too bad I stutter, and then move on. But like, something I've been doing the last 10, 15 years, I've been a sports writer, mostly hockey, and for years I wrote, like opinion pieces, previews, recaps, that sort of thing. And I enjoyed all that, don't get me wrong, but there was sort of an ulterior motive for that, as it was an ideal way to avoid interviewing others. After all, my favorite team, who I covered, was the Los Angeles Kings. And being that they were 3,000 miles away, they were only on this side of the continent maybe once a year. So most likely I had to use the phone to talk to anyone. And I mean, looking back, I can, I can tell you I've had my moments where I could speak on the phone, like whether it's working in like retail, and just kind of became routine. But overall, like I had the hardest time saying hello or thank you, much less having a full-on conversation with someone. This all came to a head in 2016. I was recently let go from a job. It was a writing job, and sort of under acrimonious circumstances, it left me with, I'll admit, a lot of hard feelings. So for the next couple weeks, I was just sitting around, being angry and bitter, feeling sorry for myself. And and around that time, especially around that time, I reverted back to my that too bad I stutter adage, and just pretty much gave up before I started. I mean, overall, I can't tell you how many situations, possibly good ones, that I just passed up because of that. But this time, I mean, not right away, but after a couple of weeks, there's something different. I eventually convinced myself to, stop feeling sorry for myself, stop making excuses, and actually try and try to do something challenging to get myself back up and not just sitting around on the couch. So what I thought of was like, speaking on the phone directly was definitely a challenge. So I thought of something different. It was 2016. The old adage, "There's an app for that," is accurate in so many ways. And so what I did, I remember just early on in childhood when I picked up the phone and knew no one was there. I would speak fine, but as soon as I dialed the number, and especially when I heard the ringtone, that's when I got really nervous. That's when my throat clenched up. That's when my chest hurt. That's when I started sweating. But before then, I was fine. So I took that idea, and I started to write down some questions and recite them into this recording app. And another idea took from the Colin Firth movie, The King's Speech. There's a point in the movie where King George, Colin Firth's character, he he's reciting a passage from the book, and while he's doing that, he's listening to music on a pair of headphones. And the passage he reads, he recites it fluently. And it's one of the few times in the movie I think he's really fluent. And I don't know, I always remembered that. So what I did was, while I'm recording my questions, I had some like classical epic music on in my headphones. And I mean, it did take a while to get going because of just how I was feeling generally. But the way I saw it, like, hey, I'm unemployed, I have nowhere else to be, so, you know, so if this takes me all day, it'll take me all day. It took a few hours, but you know, I got it off the ground. And I don't know, while I was doing it, I just kind of said to myself, it's like, you know what, you know, all these situations, you took the easy way out and it got you nowhere. At this time, try something hard and maybe it'll get you somewhere. And the LA Kings, they were coming up on their 50th season. So I thought, well, why not coincide with that with interviewing 50 former Kings? Now, when I first thought of that, I was like, 50 Kings, I'll never get that. But I wrote up like a little email template. So who I am, what I'm looking for, and the forewarning about my stuttering and the pre-recorded questions. And if you hear my voice go in two different directions, you'll know why. And 99.9% of them, if not 100, were more than understanding and appreciative of that. So, yeah, so there I went, like one by one, reaching out to former Kings players. And the first 3 or 4 were a bit rough, because uncharted waters, I never done this before. I was really nervous on what kind of reaction we'd get. But slowly but surely it got better. And I got to 50 after a few months. And that's something I never thought I'd do, because my initial goal was 25, but I just kind of got on a roll now. So, and that was actually my second book, which is on Amazon, by the way. It's called World Reflections, Tales from the Throne of Tinseltown. And it is 540 pages. I interviewed over 60 Kings and many members of the team off the ice, so that was a great accomplishment for sure. And actually, before I wrote the book, I was thinking about who I'd want to write the foreword. Maybe a former King, maybe someone who's in LA right now, and then I thought of Bob Miller, who was the team's legendary TV broadcaster. He had been with the team since 1973, and he had retired in 2017. And I emailed him, and it was kind of like one of those Hail Mary things. I wasn't expecting anything back. And then he wrote back, and he said he'd be happy and honored to write my foreword. And I was like, holy crap, well, I said something more vulgar, but no, and we just went back and forth, and he had just shared all these stories with me about his whole time broadcasting for the Kings, just, you know, bad ownership the team had in the 70s, and you know, and the old arena that they played in, and just with certain players, and Bob Miller, I mean, he he's in the Hockey Hall of Fame. He also has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So it was really humbling. And actually we went to Los Angeles for the holidays in December. And as a thank you, me, my wife Shannon, and her mother, we took Bob Miller and his wife out to dinner. And I don't know, I'm usually very frugal, but like, I think the bill came to like $2 something, and I'm like, oh, this is the best money I ever spent. But around a couple of years ago, I still enjoy sports from time to time, but I've kind of got into more interest. Like after in early 2022, I thought, well, I don't know. I'm a person who stutters. I know I haven't done anything like super fantastic, but I am someone who stutters, and perhaps someone could learn from my experience. So I just started reaching out to schools across Canada and the U.S., specifically communication disorders and SLP programs, and got an email template, and I reached out to maybe over 100 schools, and because the way I saw it, like, even if 1/4 or 1/5 of the schools get back to me or show interest, that's still 20-25. That's a good amount to start. And honestly, it started around early 2022. I just started speaking to a few schools, and just more schools started to get back to me, and I just got in touch with more people from more places around. Mostly the U.S., a couple Canadian schools, but they were mostly American schools. And and then, as was mentioned, it's been over 70 schools now I've spoken to, and a few workshop weekends, including this one. Fantastic, by the way. But the long story short is, like, just know that to write your path, it's like, don't think because you're a certain age it's passed you by. It's just remember, if you think it's too late, it's not. It's never too late to write your path and do something new, do something you're passionate about it and you really believe in. And never too late to write your path. It's obviously cliche, but you know what? Cliches are just that for a reason, because they're true. And and honestly, I went years without knowing another person who stuttered. I was briefly in group therapy as a teenager, but either they were covert stutterers or maybe I just wasn't paying close enough attention to how they spoke, because it kind of felt like I was the only stutterer there. But yeah, but as you can imagine, and some of you are people who stutter, so you can attest to this to some degree. But like, I felt very alone, very isolated, thinking that I was the only one dealing with this battle. Then I realized I wasn't. Far from it, actually. I've grown up with this a lot. Stuttering has all these false equations. So I've met people who think it's equates to lack of intelligence. Uh, uh, um, prove prove that it isn't. Some people think stuttering equates to dishonesty. Prove that it's not. People want to laugh at you, think less of you, whatever, because you stutter. Go ahead and let them. Don't fight it. Do your part to stand out. For me, it was going home, getting in touch with my creative side, whether that was writing a book, starting a podcast, reaching out to SLP programs, as I mentioned, starting your brand. More on that later, but yeah, anything. But hold on. Who to all of you who stutter. You are not alone. You'll never be alone. To you SLPs, look, it isn't. You know, you don't have to relate to people firsthand, but you should have empathy. Be empathetic. Do that to your clients. Do that to those who stutter. There's time to work on techniques and exercises, yes, but allow time for your clients to be heard. To vent their frustrations, but also talk about or beam about their accomplishments. In any facet of life, by the way, not just stutter. Let them use their voice, whether it takes them a few seconds or a few minutes to say what they need to say. Show them empathy, show them patience, show them understanding, show them that you were on their side. Okay. You know, on the mental health side of things, I've had depression for most of my life. Some of it has been directly associated with my stutter, some of it hasn't. But I've developed, I was very sensitive as a kid, I still am. I've developed social anxiety to the point where there are times I couldn't leave my house days at a time, or I couldn't get out of bed for hours at a time. And the thought about suicide, I thought about it a lot. I've saved, you know, and after trying, I even tried a couple of times. One, it's 2004, 2016. And yeah, that's it. And there were just times I felt so hopeless and so despondent. fun, and like I never get out that fun. And I struggled with that for years, and to be honest, to a lesser extent, I still do. But the only difference now is that I know that, like I said before, it's never too late to turn things around. And if any of you leave here remembering anything, please remember that. You know, a lot of people on my side, a lot of people celebrate my accomplishments. But I've had critics, I've had haters, if you will. I still do. They held me down for such a long time, but I learned to counter that slowly but surely. Now, and I'm borrowing something from the late great wrestling announcer Meiji Noguchi, whenever my time comes to leave this earth, I will ask to be buried face down, so that all those critics can rightfully kiss my ass. So, as I close here, I'm going to leave you, each and every one of you, with this. Hard work pays off. Dreams do come true. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. Appreciate you all. Thank you. Any questions, or can I go through?
Thank you so much, Ryan. Can we get another round of applause? So we're going to